Greetings, greetings, greetings. You are now tuned into the Vault. Trust Christian own nothing, control everything. Just want to thank you for tuning in live, listening to replay. This is the Vault, episode 574. Personal name versus private officer. Definitely want to thank everybody for tuning in live, listening to replay. Hit the like, hit the subscribe button. It's always appreciated. We've grown the channel for years, and we always appreciate the people that reach out. We do have a workshop coming up on 24th of August. We pretty much have identified that it's going to be in Atlanta. This is a private network, so we appreciate everybody that listens and then that reaches out. The next workshop, we already have the day set, and we even have the location. We're just finalizing some small details of the actual lineup, and look forward to presenting to you all. It's going to be a blessing. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be a great one. Once again, because it's trustee training, it is going to be asset protection workshop. It is limited seating, so this is one of those ones where don't think we've done anything actually this year publicly other than webinars. So doing something in person is going to be good again, and getting people back in front of each other, especially families that are in the foundation and suited and booted. So excited, definitely looking forward to it. Meeting new people and as well families that we've met in the past and things of that nature. It's going to be a great one. This episode right here, personal name versus private officer, is pretty much what we would consider going private series. This is where people come on the line, they ask us questions all the time, but then when they get in trustee training, they don't make the transition sometimes from a public name to a private officer. This is almost considered separation of assets. That's the first stage of trustee training, separating business from the family. So important to separate the business world from the family. So important to separate the personal from the private. So we're going to talk about that today in this episode. So in this particular episode, personal name, most people know this as the government name, it's the social name. It's the name that people are utilizing traditionally for business purposes. And then when we get over to the private officer, we're talking about you now being in an elected position. You've been in a position that you accepted position. And in turn, by you accepting that position, you're in a position of an officer. You're not in a position of acting on your own accord. You're not in a position where you're acting on your own behalf. You can state that not just through record, but you can also state that through action. People sometimes don't come to the vault with the mindset of form versus substance, but form versus substance is very, very important. And so this is not that subject matter today, but it is to allow people to understand the difference between public and private, and the capacity that you're in. When we talk about being a private officer, ladies and gentlemen, if you're a private officer, your family estate, why are people thinking about personal things? Because they can't let it go. They haven't been able to let it go. It's too easy to deal with personal name things. Why? It's too easy. That's what they know. They don't know to drop the name. They don't know to let the dead bury the dead. The personal name people don't know that. They somehow sneak back over to that to the public. That's what it's called. Anytime you're engaging with social security matters, public social security matters, wouldn't that be public? So private matters is just not touching it, not giving it any power, not giving it any energy, and putting energy into the family estate, putting energy into the proper position of trusteeship. Is that muscle so hard to lift? Could be. Very challenging. Because we see so many in the public and they are dealing with personal matters. And it's simple. The ones that successful, the ones that are most successful in trusteeship, they focus on transitioning their mindset to private officer. They came to the vault pretty much with an own nothing, control everything mindset, so they trust Christian. They don't come in with high levels of apprehension or hesitation. They come in, they follow directions, and they move forward. They understand that it's a system that they're not aware of that they need to put in place. They put a system in place and they move on with their life. See, people don't want to know that it's a system. Everything has a system. It's a system to generate wealth. There's a system to preserve wealth. There's a system to manage wealth. There's a system to grow wealth. There's a system to preserve wealth, ladies and gentlemen. And if people are not engaged in those systems, then you're engaged in a system that is going to give you the results that you're looking for. It's that simple. A franchise is a system. The franchise is going to give someone, depending on the position they're in. Are they in the position of a franchisee, or are they in the position of the master franchisor? So it's the same thing in trusteeship. Do you own the trust, or are you in the position of trusteeship? Remember, it's trust Christian, own nothing, control everything. So if someone comes in and they say, well, okay, I want to trust Christian, own nothing, control everything, are you still engaging in personal? Are you still moving in that fashion, or is it a transition to say, well, I came in with the own nothing, control everything mindset, and now that I'm over here, I just got to stay on this path? What is the best way to operate in this capacity? Ladies and gentlemen, the muscle that most people that we've run into, because we don't, uh, what we say, discriminate, but if someone's an employee, they're going to have a hard time transitioning. We're not trying to push people away from the vault. We're just being honest. If you are not capable of creating a schedule for yourself for the thing that you love to generate wealth, it's going to be challenging to be a private officer. There are many trustees that we've had, they've written plays, they have intellectual property. When you file for intellectual property, a lot of times if people file for it in their personal name, then it's in that name for however long the copyright or the trademark or the patent is. So how do we now help that family, help that person, put that in a position of strength, power, leverage as a private officer? How do they control the asset instead of own it and be a liability? Well, they trust Christian. They own nothing, control everything. They stay in that mindset. They're looking. When people reach out to the vault and they say, "Oh, I'm trying to figure out how to build credit on the trustee program and trust," are you doing that in the public or in the private? They're a public and they're a private. The public has its benefit, ladies and gentlemen. How is it that doing it from a liable position, your perspective, is good? It's not. So a private officer knows how to sign things properly. Oh, I'm coming to the vault. I don't know if I need trustee training. You know if you need trustee training if you don't know how to sign things properly. It's that simple. Oh man, what do you mean sign things properly? There's more than one way to sign things. Are you aware of the multiple ways, or is it just, oh, let me guess and put one of these codes on here? I'm a guess. And trustee training, private officers always sign with a restricted signature. Personal name is unrestricted. Private officers understand that this not about them. It's about the family estate. And so in turn, or whatever company they're working for privately, so in turn they minimize the personal problems, personal baggage. That's why it's not many of us over here working with families, because people are personal. They're not private. Private means you're going to show up, even if we have to do the meeting at your house. We're going to do the meeting at your house, but we're going to do the meeting. You hear the difference? People say, oh, is that extreme? Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we have families that record the calls. They record their calls. They record it because not every family member can make every call. But once again, that's the difference between all of them being in private trusteeship and people in the public name making excuses. Well, all of us can't show up, so it's no need to figure it out. No, there is a high level of ingenuity. There's a high level of creativity in private trusteeship. There's actually more creativity in private officer than personal name. Personal name is the government. You guys know this. You guys are aware of this. This is the public. Personal is the government. Public is the government. Government is domestic. These are all the words. Then they come on the line and say, oh, trust Christian vault. I just want to find out if I'm in private trusteeship. They want to find out if they're in private trusteeship. But they don't know if they're a private officer, and they don't speak like a private officer. So they need trustee training. The trustee training is to help people correct their speech. People come on the line all the time. Still, we have to People reach out to us because they want to be better and correct their speech. So, yes, if it's yours, they want to correct it. If it's not yours and you're a private officer, there's the best way to speak about it. That's the best way to live. Most people may not even catch themselves because they're not conscious, and then they're not around enough people. We tell this to trustees all the time. You're just not around enough people that are in the private sector. People are around people that are in the public sector because 80% plus are working for other people. So they're doing things in their personal name. So it's easy to get caught up in that game if you're in that sector and you're not a private officer thought process. Which private officer thought process definitely goes into the public and actually acquires assets. Private officers work in the public 100%. Ladies and gentlemen, it's as simple as, is there a such thing as a private company? Of course there's a such thing as a private company. Well, there are private officers that sit on the board of that company. That's how it looks, ladies and gentlemen. What does a private company looks like? It looks like, to a degree, their board is private. That means that not everybody is disclosed. That means they may have a private source of funds. That means they're not asking for a commercial, which is public. They're not asking for traditional commercial public scrutinized loans. They're not asking for SBA loans. So when people talk in the public now, you always come to us in the public and say, "Oh, how does it build credit?" Once again, they understand how to get the money privately. We've never said you cannot build credit privately on one, but the thing about it is most people, they don't build credit properly privately because they don't understand that it's more about relationships in the private than it is even about the assets itself. In the public, it's about the assets. You got to show cash flow, you got to show a return, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to let them swab your mouth. This is all the things that they ask for in the public when it comes to getting capital. But when it comes to capital in the private, that's something that it's like, okay, here we go. This is the easiest way to explain how to raise capital in the private. And this may be something that makes people uncomfortable or they don't want to hear. So traditionally in capital raising, we have various stages. The first stage is, and this is for everybody, nobody's excluded. Basically, the friends and family round, and they also call it fools. So in the private sector, the initial stage of raising capital is friends, family, and fools. And if we're not going to go commercial, we don't want to jump straight to PE, so we may jump to any source of considered unregulated to a degree sources of funds. They may Private funds also come from not just institutions, they also come from families. So even if it comes from friends, family, and fools, then we get to the level where you're doing private institutions. Do we do private institutions? If you're not doing private institutions, you're doing private families. These are families that are financially well off, have substantial funds to give to people. People say, "Oh, trust Christian vote." Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and bust it down because that's what you do with the work when you know how to chop the work up and still make it pure. If you have a private family foundation and you're in the environment with other private family foundations that have to give money away to each other, you're operating as a private officer. That's an easy environment to raise the money in. It's a it's an environment for charities. It's an environment for families. I mean, what more do we need to highlight? It's too easy to do the easy and the simple. People want to do complex and these extraordinary projects. The whole game is execution, ladies and gentlemen. Have you executed how to be in the private properly? Have you executed putting your family in a private position properly? Unfortunately, for people that are listening to this, you may know people in the public, celebrities or otherwise, that are private officers that are utilizing a public name. Excuse us. It's actually a public name. It's like not all like actors, for example. Actors may not use their real name. You hear how they call it? Oh, the actor didn't use his real name. So what did he use or she use? They used a business name. To a degree, it's called a personal name. Because when you would see them on the street, you're not gonna know them by their private name. You're gonna know them by their public name. Hey Denzel. Hey Will. That's what you call it. Beyonce don't even got you. You almost don't even know her last name. It's just one name, first name. That may not be her real name from birth. We're not questioning that. We're not causing speculation. What we are positing to people is letting them know that people are very aware in these sectors that people do not use what will be considered their private officer name. They use a public personal name for business purposes. Whether people know it or not, it could be for the tax purposes. But not everybody is that sophisticated. That's why they call them sophisticated investors. The personal names, they usually are employees. They end up working for other people because they don't understand they're not in the correct position. The ultimate correct position is being a private officer. There's no need to leave that position. You stay in that position at all times and you don't leave it. There's no need to leave the position once you understand the highest position, which is an officer. It's like a government official. Who's the officer, highest officer of the land? Anyone that's called an officer or official. It's that simple. Oh man, how do they get to take that title? Because they've moved into that capacity. They've signed contracts that moved them into that capacity. They swore an oath to move into that capacity. They have a public record displaying that they're okay with being in a private obligation. Oh, I come to you with the UCC Trust Christian Vault, the security agreement. I gotta have a trademark, a copyright. I gotta be in position and control of the personal name, right? Right. So who's gonna own it? Now we know why it's the officer. You're the officer. Now we know why the trustee would be the officer, or they would be a board member, board officer, or officer of the first board. These are positions that we would be able to have a conversation with, and we encourage everyone to have those conversations with their close circle. Is, are you operating in your personal name, or are you operating as a private officer? It's that simple. Because when they're operating in a private officer capacity, they're gonna speak like it, they're gonna walk like it, they're gonna talk like it. Trustees say, "Oh man, I gotta do the minutes. I'm having a challenge doing the minutes." Ladies and gentlemen, we done talked about this for years. Here we go. The minutes. If you only do 52 minutes a year, that's probably the smallest book you'll ever read. One of them. So, once again, that's what it's called. That's what it is. 52 minutes. Oh man, trust Christian in the vault. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do the minute this week. For your family estate? No, you're not doing it for Trust Christian in the Vault, ladies and gentlemen. You're doing it for your family. So when they look back 100 years, because you're generational wealth builder one, they can say we appreciate that officer for putting a system in place that we only got to write something 52 times. Can we write more? Yes. But do we have to set a standard? Yes. Where is the standard? Where is the flag bearer? Where are the torchbearers for your family? If you say, "Oh man, no one in my family is going to be a trustee. No one wanted to step up and come to the meetings with me." It's 52 meetings in a year. Because it's 52 weeks. You do a meeting every week. No one in my family wanted to show up Trust Christian Fault because they're acting in their personal name, not acting as a private officer. Because as a private officer, we have an obligation to show up for our family estate. See, remember, we were called to the table, and we also chose ourselves when we signed. Many are called. Not everybody wants to be responsible for the family estate as a private officer. It's okay. Are you aware of that as a private officer, though, for the family estate? Are you aware that you actually are an officer, and many are not called to be officers, or they just didn't choose themselves? Or we as senior officers, this is the biggest thing, ladies and gentlemen, as a senior officer, we actually have to come up with methods, and we actually have to get better as senior officers. We have to learn how to communicate better with our families. In turn, when we communicate better with our families, when communication is free and clear, we're able to have meetings. One of the things that you can start out with the family is finding out what are our family values, and think about that. What if not? What if out of all the family members, let's say three, four, five, whatever plus, and in the top three values, you don't have communication. No one came up with that. It didn't come up in the five. It didn't come up in your top 10. It's like, wow, we don't value communication. That can present a challenge. Whereas a family that says, oh, yeah, we all value communication, we value proactiveness. So that means even if we got to communicate bad news, we need you to always be proactive. Don't let us come to the meeting and we're sitting here stuck now. So they value proactiveness, they value communication. That's fine. But do you have that as a value? As the first officer, what are your standards as the first officer? Are you going to show up on time? Are you going to show up for all 52 meetings? See, think about this, ladies and gentlemen. This is the question a trustee or someone that's aspiring to be a trustee has to ask themselves. If you can show up for another job for someone else outside of yourself, how can you not have 52 meetings a year? That's not even 2 months worth of work. It's one day. Did you dedicate a whole day? No. How many hours would you say you have to dedicate on those 1 days out of the 52 weeks? We would say probably about 2 hours to give you the max. This should not take longer than 2 hours. And we have families that have meetings in less than an hour. And if it's you by yourself, it shouldn't take longer than 2 hours. We have trustees that say that, oh man, think about it. It's no plus or minus to have more trustees or less trustees or family members involved. Why? Because we're still dealing with personalities. Ladies and gentlemen, a senior trustee is going to take a personality test, and then you're going to give it to other family members to take a personality test. So we can all look at how our personalities either are clashing or working. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, that's like asking you, why don't you think you get along with a family member? Because your personality may clash. So how can we overcome this? Ladies and gentlemen, people work with people on a job with someone that they don't love, that they don't see for family occasions when they do take off work, and they work with them. We can work with people in our family. We have to engage in better communications. We have to get better as trustees, as senior trustees. And so once again, if you're a private officer, you're always working on that. You already know that. You already know that 50% of your family is not engaged in private officer thought process. And your job is to find the family members that are leaders, one. That's our job as seniors. And to always have those seniors sitting in the room to work with us. These are the family members that are focused on saving. See, there are family members that save without you telling them. Right, but are they putting it in the right place? Oh, well, you came to them now and you said, okay, we have a right place to put it. We have a family estate that's going to help us perpetuate wealth. Remember when you were younger and you wanted money and you wanted to go to school? Guess what? We didn't have family funds. Now we do have family funds. Oh, we started something like that because my parents didn't have something. So, okay, if your parents didn't start something like that and you started something like that, is it in the right position? Is it in your personal name? What do they call it? A 527 or 579 policy or something like that? You guys can look it up. It's a public policy. It's a personal name policy. It's something for people to hold money for their children and kids and to go to school and things like that. There are policies like that out there. They're supposed to be holding it as an officer, though, a private officer, not in their personal name. But most people will. Why? Because they got a public financial advisor. We're ladies and gentlemen, all this is an information gap. All this is an information learning process. Implement the system. People come to the vault all the time. I want to go private trust Christian vault. I'm focused on being in the private. Really, a lot of people come on the line and say they private, but they not. And here's how you know you're not private or you're not. Here you go. The personal name is public. Anything dealing with the public is personal name. The private, we already know what time it is. It's private trusteeship. It's private foundationship. That's it. Oh, Trust Christian Vault. Here we go. Look, they come to the vault. They say, I got a public charity. Which one is that? That's personal name. They're not private officer mentality. Is there an importance? Is there a necessary reason for them to do that? That's up to them, ladies and gentlemen. This is the thought process that we're exposing and sharing to say, okay, well, if they come to the vault and they say they're private, what about the vehicles that you're driving is private? Are you driving private vehicles on a daily basis? Are you building wealth? Uh-oh. They will always want to talk about, oh, you got to build wealth. Okay. You got to preserve wealth and you got to do all these things. Well, are you building it in the right vehicle? Well, Trust Christian and Vote, it's a lot of celebrities and people and athletes, and they put it in their personal name. Ladies and gentlemen, the ones that stay wealthy, they're private. It's that simple. Can your personal name float in the public? Think about it. Most celebrities' names is bigger brand wise than some wealthy people's names, some private officer names. Why? Because they understand how to be in the correct position. Celebrities understand. I mean, well, celebrities don't. They're in the public. Private people understand. Private officers understand. They don't need anything to be in the public that's personal. But you got trustees to ask us, or people ask us, how do I do this personally? How do I finesse this personally? How do I deal with this personally? Private officer? It's only one way to think about it. So, what's the best way for the company to do this? See how easy it is to switch the conversation and the thought process? But we got to be around the right people. Trust Christian and Vault, we giving you 52 weeks of straight up 101 every single week, making sure we're having that conversation. Think about this. Trustees say, oh, I have a hard time doing a discipline for the minutes. Every time we're on the line, we're implementing a strategy now that we're doing minutes live on the line. We've done minutes live for years now, but well, we got to do a whole do it yourself project. So, okay, trustee, when you're sitting on the line with us, let's do a screen share. Type out notes while we're sitting here. Why? So we can see you typing out notes. That is a minute. Minute notes are minutes. Notes are minutes. Vice versa. So when we talk about, oh man, I'm having a challenge doing the minutes, because this is like, ladies and gentlemen, this is it's an 80% problem. Which one are you? The 80% of problem, personal name problems, is I'm having a challenge doing 52 minutes in a year. I'm having a challenge doing a 2-hour planning session for the family estate. And if we were to add up how many hours that is, think about this, ladies and gentlemen. This is the challenge is people don't really know the numbers. So let's do the numbers. If it's 52 weeks in a year times 2 hours a week, that means you're doing 104 hours in a year to plan out the family estate. That's less than a day. That's what the private officer's doing, not making excuses. And if people want to say, oh, Christian, you're talking kind of hard because you're saying it's an excuse. What we're saying is, ladies and gentlemen, there's no negotiations for the private family estate to generate and perpetuate wealth from one generation to the next. There's no negotiation. You think when Rockefeller started the estate, he says, oh, yeah, we might not be around in 3 or 4. No. When you started, it's the same thing. No one thinks I'm not going to have it around for 3 to 4 generations plus. Well, if we think that we're going to have it around for 3 to 4 generations plus, that means we would take a 2-hour planning session every single week. We're going to take that. We're going to plan for the family, with or without other family members, every single week. We're going to focus on educating the trustees that are in trusteeship for the family estate. As you being a private officer, are you questioning whether you should invest in your private family education? If you're not going to do it, who's going to do it? That was an easy one. Oh, let's repeat it again. Trust Christian and Vault. There's been times I wonder, should I invest $100 in my education? Should I buy that book? Should I listen to this podcast? Should I go to this conference? One of the mentors, he told us, all work is good work. No one wants to hear that though, because maybe people don't want to work. But the ones that are going to do the work as the private officer, the 2-hour session every single week, they're going to plan. Most people don't have a plan for their life. We understand that they're not going to have a plan for the private family officer position. That's why we have trustee training. That's why we have the asset protection workshops, is because we understand that there has to be a level of mentorship just like we receive. We were mentored by private families that were officers. They were in the correct position. That's why we can talk about it. That's why we can move about it. because you're only operating in the correct position, which is being an officer for the family estate. It's not the executrix, though. It's not the executor. We said private officer, not private executor. I'm an executor, trust Christian in the vault. I mean, like, this is what they come on the line and say. They come on and say, they say, oh, when is the, they say, we had somebody type into the chat a question. We're going to address the question. They say, I'm the executrix. I'm the executrix. Like, ladies and gentlemen, when you enroll in trustee training, we encourage trustees to get Black's Law Dictionary. Sorry, we're flooding the market with people buying up antiquated or antiques. That we're showing them the value of buying collector's items. So they go buy the 3rd and 4th and 5th edition, 6th edition, and they learn the definitions from a maritime perspective. Let's go there. People want to talk that maritime stuff. Oh, let's talk maritime law, Trust Christian Info, because we're on the law of the seas. Well, we're on the law of the seas. Let's talk the maritime. Do you have a maritime dictionary? Oh, don't talk to me like that, because here we go. It's two types of people. The reason why people enroll in trustee training is because they want to be a private officer. They have an aspiration to educate themselves further as private officer. Whereas people that want someone to really come in, build credit for them, build the estate for them. Hold on. You want someone to discharge debt for you? You want to go assume a debt and then have someone else discharge it? That's personal name. Because you got to do a discharge in your personal name. Private officers, we deal with securities agents. Securities agents are private because they understand private contracts. Oh no, the sheik didn't tell me that. The guru didn't tell me that. Let's repeat it. The securities agent is a private contract officer. Do you have a relationship with them? All you have to do is Google them. You can find people locally. They might be a lawyer. They might be a banker. Once again, securities agent. They actually have multiple securities licenses. So when you're looking to get a certain type of security for your personal name, oh, Trust Christian Vote, can we pay with a security? They don't even say that because they don't want to know that the promissory note. We sit on the line with people all the time, ladies. I'm telling you, not even on the like, not on anything crazy, but just business people. Business people take out promissory notes, ladies and gentlemen. They have collateralized loans. They have different type of stock programs, ladies and gentlemen. That's what happens when you're a private officer. You stop doing things in your personal name and you start issuing company debt. People say, oh, I want to issue company debt. We have people sitting on like, oh, I'm trying to issue receipts. I'm trying to record the receipts because I'll put out all my personal money into the company, but I'm trying to get a recruitment. I'm trying to get all my money back. How you going to get money back from an investment? That means you got to make a wise investment, right? Right. So if the investment's not paying you money, it's not a wise investment of time and money. Private officer has to read the Prudent Investor Act. Oh man, I got to learn how to not be making bad decisions. And we all learn from experience, hopefully. Private officers are not liable. You got officers insurance? Oh, Trust Christian Vault. I didn't know we could get bonded as an officer. I thought that's what we did with the birth certificate. I thought the birth certificate was a bond, Trust Christian Vault. I seen the QSIP number on the bottom of the birth certificate. I think that the government is hypothecating it on some private market that I don't know about. They issued a debt. Doesn't it say every citizen owes money in my personal name? Does the personal government name owe money? Do I owe money or does the government owe money? How the government going to tell you owe money? Did the government create money? Hold on. When the government sold you their services, did you buy it or did you accept it by acquiescence, by not denying it, saying, I don't need debt? Hold on. You don't need debt? You wanted credit. But then people want to come at us all the time and they want to talk about it from the private and say, well, I want to issue credit. My name is credit. My signature is credit. I'm a credit. That's how they talk to us. But then they say I. They said personal. They didn't say their family estate that has the private family banking policies. See how we said it again? Private family banking policies. So they want to talk about, oh, you got to start a public bank. You got to start a bank over the internet. That's what they talk about. We see the ads come up. I'm sure you're going to see the ads come up in the YouTube. Oh, start a family bank. Start a private bank. Did they start a private family bank? Did they do it in private trusteeship, or they just talking about issuing it through the bank, through the contract itself? Who owns the policy? Who's the beneficiary of the private family bank? Are you the beneficiary? How you gonna be the beneficiary? You the officer. You can't be that. You can, but it's not the best. Who you think has the most power at the bank? The depositors or the officers? That was easy. Well, I just want to do things in my personal name, trust, Christian Vault. That's the way my family did it. It's kind of hard. I gotta put in some extra hours. You're telling me I gotta put in 2 extra hours a week to create basically, I gotta write down my values for the family estate that we're gonna perpetuate from generation to generation. Because people don't understand. You don't pass money. You pass values. They don't want to hear that in the public because they amoral. They don't want to put morals at the precipice, at the mission statement of the family. They playing with it. They don't want to stand for something. So they're going to fall for anything. Sometimes your family, as a private officer, the family estate may not participate in public displays because they understand the value of being private. They understand not to be a part of things that don't represent them well. They got to have standards, though. They got to write the minutes. Oh, trust Christian Vault. This is the best time to do it. You take 2 hours this week. You do a 2-hour minute. It doesn't have to be full 2 hours. Oh, man, what happened to blocking out the time? Don't you got a job? Don't they tell you guys show up from X, Y to Z to X, Y, and Z? Okay, so did your family estate say, that's it, we're calling a meeting this week. Whoever shows up on Sunday, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we'll see you there. If you don't, we'll record the meeting, and that's that. It's called starting a habit, ladies and gentlemen. We're here to help people start those habits. We have helped people start those habits. We have helped families start those habits. And a habit is a part of a value that you can pass along. Do you have a hard work ethic? Do you have a smart work ethic? Do you have creativity as your value? Or is it, oh man, we have entertainment and leisure as a value? We have it could be embarrassing for you, but we're going to share it because it could be true. And if it's true, the easiest way to get rid of this is to reframe it. And we're going to share with you the reframe. Some people in life, this is their value, is they value just doing enough. They value just cutting corners. They value the shortcut. They value being lazy but still getting by. They value that. Oh man, if I just do enough work, hey man, I ain't gotta do a minute every week, Trust Christian Vault. I could do one once a year. That's what they be saying. Oh, Trust Christian Vault, look, you said for a month, so I could do once a month, right? Hold on. What happens, Trust Christian, if I miss a week? You hear the thought process? What they ask preventative risk losing questions. Not for the edification, but for the prevention of a loss. Because they're playing not to lose. They're not playing to win. They're playing not to lose. We'll say it again. They're playing not to lose. Man, Trust Christian Vault, I don't need to be in no trusteeship right now. Man, I ain't got no kids. Man, I don't need to be in no trusteeship right now. We ain't even got a house, Trust Christian, in our name. Man, Trust Christian Vault, I don't need to be in no trusteeship. I barely own a car. Man, I'm going to work every single day. I'm barely making enough money to provide for myself right now. I'm living paycheck to paycheck. That's how I'm living over here. I'm living in scarcity mentality. I didn't pray. I didn't say I was living in abundance. I'm not living in a wealthy state, but I want to be wealthy. I want to be wealthy. I'm a wannabe. When you going to put the action in? It's not just thinking about it. You got to feel it too. Because when you got the feelings, you're going to do something. When you love something, you do something about it. But it's personal though. And it's challenging to transition people's mindset to the private sector, which is non-biased. very you just take a neutral position towards the family. You show up. It's a job every single week for the family. It's 2 hours. We're here to further the family and perpetuate the wealth. It's that simple. That's what we're here to do for the family every single week. We're not here to talk about personal problems. But interestingly enough, families actually have, when you build out the proper meetings, people actually come to the table. They bring their challenges to the table, and we do kind of go through some of the challenges individuals are going through, because that's what's going to help the family further itself. If somebody's having a financial challenge we might have to help, that's where we do implement private family banking strategies. That's when those strategies do come in handy. When we're sitting at the table and somebody's telling you they're going through a challenge financially, the family can help them. Then they don't have to go outside the family. But it's challenging when we don't build that from within. So when we build that from within, we have a private family bank. Private family officer, when we're talking about wealthy, we're talking about abundance. We're not talking about doing just enough. We reframe that to doing more than enough. Wealth means you got more than enough. No one wants to think like that. It's not easy to think like that. You got to wake up every single day thinking that. Guess what? I got to think that I have more than enough money in the bank account. I have to think that I'm operating from a more than enough perspective, because that's what wealth is. So when people say they want to be wealthy, are they operating from that thought? Are they operating from that feeling? Are they operating from that position? I'm more than enough. I have more than enough right now. So when you're taking actions, you're not making risk losing decisions, risk aversion decisions. People make risk aversion decisions even when they're wealthy. Not everybody. There are times where people, it's easy to be in a position where you acquire wealth or you acquire capital, and people play not to lose. They acquire a certain amount of capital, they acquire certain substantial funds, and they play not to lose. They say, oh, we're not going to take a lot more risk. We're going to lower our risk, and we're going to just play it safe. These are things people do. And the wealth accumulation, the wealth preservation, it's all about taking calculated risk. It's all about risk adjusted returns. We're okay with that. So we do more. We do more research than necessary. It's private officers are the highest officers of the land, as people like to call them. Oh, well, what about the private man and the private woman? That's usually who is in the highest position. They're in the right position. They're in the private position. But they understand how to stay in that position and not be pulled into the public for public controversies. They know how to avoid public controversies. So we appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listening, replay. Somebody asked, when is the next conference? Appreciate Thomas Adams for tuning in live, listening, replay. Always appreciate you for tuning in live, listening, replay. Definitely. So the next conference is actually going to be in Atlanta. We've actually already figured that out. We're just doing a small detail for the address, and we're good to go. It's going to be on the 24th of August. We've already found that date out, so we're going to give people enough time to travel. We have people traveling from all over the country, so it is going to be limited seating. This isn't going to be our traditional bigger events. We're looking to really focus on private officers and lean into more private officers instead of people just want to be trustees and they want to be wealthy. There's not just a thought process that comes with wealth. There is a system that comes with wealth. That's why they call it a wealth system. It's you don't build. Well, if you want to say you can build wealth and lose it, you can. I mean, if you think about this, ladies and gentlemen, MC Hammer had over $200 million in his life. Who else? With Mike Tyson, celebrity, once again had over $200 million go through his hands in his life. That's considered wealthy, ladies and gentlemen. So if you don't think you can blow wealth, you can lose wealth. You can lose wealth, unfortunately. And people try to quote sometimes families that were part of the Industrial Revolution that haven't made it out, but they were billionaires at that time. And so, once again, it's not you. You don't have to do anything. But individuals, families, definitely, they put together a wealthy system in place. This is a system. We work with families to make sure that they have a private family banking system and everything else, because you're going to operate in those capacities. People talk about real estate all the time, but do you think the private family bank ain't before the real estate? They're not. First of all, these are insurance contracts. They written off of just creating paper. These are hypothecation. Same thing with a mortgage. But when people talk about collateralizing real property, that's actual a tangible dirt, gold, silver, a metal, commodity value. When you hold an asset and create some form of what do you call it? Some property description, something that pretty much says it has control over a square or a foot. How much is a square foot that you're holding cost? And it's not just how wide it is, or it's actually how deep it is too. How deep do you have mineral rights to the property? Things of that nature. So those are things that are a little bit different than when we talk about the private family banking system. And it's not to say that the private family banking system can't be a land. We'll drop a jewel and we hopping off. It's just this simple. They want to come on the line. They've been talking about this blockchain stuff for years. Oh, I got blockchain trust Christian vote. Blockchain trust Christian vote. We gonna do blockchain. Okay, so how many of you all have collateralized your property and put it on the blockchain? And this is for the ones that say they own it. We thought you could do that. I thought you had value, right? The property has value. First of all, it's definitely got value. It's got a mortgage on it. If it doesn't, it's definitely got some value on it. It's owned outright. It's owned outright. So you own the property outright, but you haven't blockchained it yet. But hold on. We're past blockchain, ladies and gentlemen. We're at AI. People are missing out right now. We don't need to paint the fear picture. It is what it is. How many of you all are talking about AI in your conversations? How many of you all are talking about blockchain in the conversation to own property? Oh, trust Christian Vault. I got away from that. Oh, I didn't know a techie that could do it for me. I didn't want to go on Fiverr to search for somebody. You can make excuses and you can make money, but you can't make both. That's where we are. They didn't blockchain their property. They didn't operate from a private officer perspective. Thomas Adams, feel free to reach out, Christian at trustchristian.com. Once again, that's Christian at trustchristian.com. We actually had a demo flyer made. It just, it didn't look, we need to beef it up a little bit. So be on the lookout for some pop-up episodes. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. Once again, if you want to reach out, Christian at trustchristian.com. We'll put that in the chat. You can feel free to reach out to us. Once again, this is limited seating tickets, ladies and gentlemen. I know some people they may wonder, oh man, it can't be that. It is. We always sell out our events, so we're definitely going to be focused on making sure we're going to have a private family banking officer in the room. Don't think we're not. We are. And we're actually, because it's in Atlanta, we actually should be able to pull in, once again, it's another enrolled agent. They're an officer. They act in an officer capacity. They are in a bonded capacity. So we're looking to have our enrolled agent. We're looking to have our private family banker in the room. It's that simple. People don't even want to know that an enrolled agent is a private person. They don't want to know that. It's too hard. Oh, trust Christian vote. I got to deal with a top flight professional now. Exactly. I got to pay for those services. My family estate's we got to generate some money. We're not bartering. Okay. Well, maybe you can lateralize your family estate in the blockchain and then issue a Bitcoin or a derivative of your family coin. How many people put their family coins together? Oh man, that's sophisticated financial stuff right there. Trust Christian in the vote. Let's say it again. Did you blockchain your family estate and issue your family? Did you issue a family coin yet? Can you issue a family coin? I didn't issue a family coin. How many people are going to buy that? I thought I was supposed to be creating my own private family banking system, my own private family wealth system. But no one over the internet really told me how to do that. Because Katsumoto, he's missing in action from Bitcoin. Right? So he didn't tell me how to put together my family Bitcoin, my family blockchain coin. I thought I could Google it though. And then people don't even want to know right now you can AI it out. That's how crazy AI is. That's how crazy the market is right now. That's how exciting the market is right now. And if you're living in poverty and fear, it's going to be hard to recognize the opportunities. It's going to be super hard to recognize the opportunities. Because are you living in abundance? Are you living in a more than enough state where ideas are just coming to you and you got a bunch of money coming to you and you got a bunch of ideas coming to you? And all you need is both. But are you focused on personal ideas and personal name stuff, or are you focused on being an officer over multiple companies and being an officer over the estate and being an officer over, the right position? All right, we're just gonna go ahead and highlight this again because people typing into the chat. We appreciate everybody tuning in live, listen, replay. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a sellout. We know y'all don't want to hear that, but when we get down to where someone types in the chat 3 seats, it's just gonna be 3 seats. We're doing a 22-person event. We're already under 17. We know y'all don't want to hear that. Like, why? Because we're just not in that position to we want to work with private officers and families that are serious. It's that simple. Remember, it's private. See, people want to know, I thought the private people were trying to tell people how to get wealthy. They're not, because they don't tell you that they're in trust. You think Mark Cuban's not in trust? You think, Bill Gates is in trust. You know Warren Buffett's in trust. But you don't think Mark Cuban is? It's all of us. The only difference is not all of us are going to talk about it. Remember, you learn it from a private family. You will learn it from the Cuban family. You will learn it from the Gates family. You will learn it from the Buffett family. When you're in the room and you invest to be in the room, that they don't really care to have many people in the room because they're looking for relationships too. As big as they are, they understand. Guess what? We still got to go find other people that want to be private so we can have them fortify our families. And then we go open up the Federal Reserve like they did. So when people want to talk about the Federal Reserve on Jekyll's Island, oh, they created the Federal Reserve over Jekyll's Island. Yeah. Are your families going to create the new family banking system? Are you going to create a sovereign wealth fund? Are you and your family, the families that you can work together with, are your families going to create a sovereign wealth fund? And you can be a private trustee officer over your sovereign wealth fund that you blockchain the properties together. Oh no, Trust Christian, you keep dropping jewels on us. I own some property outright, but I didn't know any young whippersnappers to help me blockchain the property. Is that even legal? When you're a private officer, you find out. When you're in your personal name, you go watch the playoffs and you sit around your family and you sit in the house that you actually own outright and you're actually not even protected because the house is in your personal name. But when you're a private officer, you understand. I'm going to sit in here with my legs kicked up and I'm not even worried about a lawsuit. I'm not even worried about this property or anything dealing with it. Why? Because it actually has insurance on it. It's collateralized multiple times. That's how we operate. Appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listen, replay. Ron in, we see you. We see that you need 3 tickets. We'll tell you right now. Definitely reach out. Feel free to reach out for trusteeship. We are doing packages. This is a package thing for 22 trustees right now. So we're looking forward to it. We got a bunch of time. It is going to be in Atlanta. It is going to be on the 24th. Most of you all know we usually run like 9 to 5 events. It may be more of like a 10 to 3, 10 to 4. Once again, we will have our private family banker in the room, and we will bring in our enrolled agent in the room as well. So look forward to everybody. Feel free to reaching out. Christian at trustchristian.com. Once again, it's Christian at trustchristian.com. That's for ticket inquiries. You'll see the flyer come up. I'm sure everybody wants to know the price. We've always done private pricing. Ladies and gentlemen, we're not even out here trying to get people for an arm and a leg. We go to conferences every single year, multiple conferences that cost over $500, ladies and gentlemen. That is called a cheap ticket. In the wealth environment, there are generally no tickets less than $500. Just give you guys a heads up. That's not the ticket cost for ours, but in the private wealth sector, if you Google private wealth conferences or wealth conferences, they are traditionally not less than $500, and ours is because we're focused on working with families and doing it in a very private, tailored manner. So very tailored approach. That's what we're focused on. When people say I want to go private, if you're focused on private trusteeship and private officer, we'll see you at the workshop. It doesn't need to be many. It needs to be focused on families. And so we will say if it is something where one family member comes but they have a wife, that's 1 ticket. But if it's something where they're coming with multiple family members outside of wife and husband, then we'll definitely make a concession because we've sat in a room for years now where people bring their children. So children don't count as a ticket, but they can come. for sure. We want children, and children are people under 18 years old. So people that have children that are under 18 years old, they could feel free to reach out. They can, come to the workshop. But usually, if they're under 18, I mean, it's almost like if they're in college, we'll make that concession too. If we decide to feed people as we traditionally do, then we'll make sure that we go for that accommodation. But for the most part, traditionally anybody that's in like school age, they don't have to pay for the workshop. They're working with families. They're coming with their families, so that's how that works. So looking forward to families coming. We hear Ron in. Definitely feel free to reach out. That's 3 seats right there, ladies and gentlemen. We say 22 people. They've been to the workshops before. 22, and we don't need to go more than that. So we're doing a very controlled number. Appreciate all the likes. Definitely hit the like. Definitely hit the subscribe. We're going to do more pop-up episodes. We're actually going to be doing an interview with the private family banker publicly. So be ready for that pop-up episode. Hit the notification button so you guys can know when that episode pops up, and you can get your people on as well. If you have anybody interested in private family banking, that's something that we're going to do an episode for, and we are going to bring that individual on that's going to be in Atlanta on the line, and as well the enrolled agent. We've done that episode. Feel free to go Google the Vault enrolled agent episode, and look forward to hearing from you all. Definitely have a blessed day. Look forward to hearing from you all. Christian at trustchristian.com. Once again, that's Christian at trustchristian.com. Peace and joy.